Critical Role Recap Season 2, Episode 45. So last week, the Mighty Nein managed to find the place where Ford's ship had gone down. They swam down to the bottom of the ocean and found the sailor's graveyard. There, they fought this underwater ghost summoning demon creature and nearly killed her, but Ford did find a second cloven gem, which he then ingested, put inside of himself. So now he has 2 cloven gems in him. They made a speedy retreat, and as a storm was being summoned by that creature, they made their way towards a port to make some repairs, and that's where we pick up this week with them sailing, having just picked up the second cloven gem and going on their way to get some repairs and some supplies for the ship. Knot decides to try and make a couple more explosive arrowheads, or bolt heads as they were, and in doing so messes up one of them and sets off a minor explosion. This explosion startles some creature that appeared to be hiding in the crates nearby, and this is where we introduce our guest for this episode, Deborah Ann Wool, who is playing Twiggy, a gnome rogue. It seems like an arcane rogue, very similar to the same skill set that Knot employs, and she is covered in chocolate and her hair is a mess, and she has a pet tiny squirrel that she talks to. Twiggy is a bit of a strange character and seems to be constantly out of sorts. She's very hyperactive and kind of bouncing off the walls constantly. We learn that she was imprisoned for some reason by some bad man and for an indeterminate amount of time. So Twiggy's not even sure how old she is. Sometimes she seems to be 7, sometimes she seems to be 60. Gnomes live for a very long time, so it's hard to tell their age anyway. So she has an interesting and mysterious backstory. However, more recently, she had stolen some sort of puzzle sphere from this bad man, and she stowed away on their ship in the past week. So she takes out the puzzle sphere to show Jester as they're exuberantly meeting each other, and she twists it around in a certain way and some gold spits out of it. Caleb begins investigating it with the rest of the crew over the next day or so, and they manage to get it into more stages. As they unlock one stage, new things open up and the components shift so that they can try and figure it out again, basically. They manage to have it shoot out some gemstones. It shoots out a black hole about a foot in diameter, and they eventually, after some discussion, go inside with Bo's head, pokes inside, and she scoops out some items from there, and it's basically some warm clothing. It's a magical rod that when twisted will warm your hands, some warm boots, and a cloak. And the cloak has a symbol on it that Caleb learns is just representative of a name, Halas. They continue shifting it, and they get it to a new setting, and when this new setting goes off, every single one of the Mighty Nein plus Twiggy minus Yasha, because she was not nearby, gets teleported into a bizarre place. They found themselves in some sort of mysterious chamber, which had banners on 4 corners of the walls. Twiggy went ahead and used Mage Hand to move one of the banners, and it shot an electricity bolt that hit multiple of the party members. Caleb decided to go ahead and erect his little home safe sphere that he can make where they can sleep safely, but it's also impervious to any attacks and from enemies to enter as well. So they erect this sphere and then continue using Mage Hand to shift the banners. One of the banners shoots out flames, but they find a door behind one, and Twiggy, using Mage Hand again, manages to pick the lock. She successfully unlocks the door. They open it up, and inside there, they find a tunnel of sorts, and they begin walking through. It seems that they realize that they're shifting around inside of it, and Caleb realizes also that it is an extra dimensional sort of tunnel. It's not like a normal hallway, and that a lot of the travel that they've been doing so far has been to other dimensions, or at least it's not been normal travel. They're not just walking through hallways. They're in some sort of complex magical area. Once they make their way through the tunnel, they end up in what appears to be a private study, and it appears to be Halas's private study. It has similar symbols, and there's a image of the man himself there that they find, and it is covered in books. There are books all over the place. However, all of the books seem to be trapped or locked in place in some way, and so they do manage to unlock a couple of the books and stow them away for later, and they find some interesting things, and Knot and Twiggy both get eaten by one of the cabinets that's in the room. So they have a brief battle with this mimic and handle it pretty easily. It never really poses that much of a threat. And then they find a stained glass window that seems to be depicting how all of the different dimensions and planes are connected. However, among all of these things, there is a little red spot that shouldn't be there, basically. And so Ford just kind of walks up and touches it, and instantly the pane shatters and sucks him in and reforms itself, and he disappears. The rest of the Mighty Nein didn't see him do it. They just noticed, like, he just kind of disappeared suddenly, but they didn't see what he touched or what exactly happened. So they begin frantically searching the room for any kind of information they can find, and basically just kind of give up, and eventually the rest of them go touch the thing also and teleport away. However, they do so in a staggered way because Knot decides to continue searching the room to try and find more books for Caleb, and Bo kind of recklessly goes and presses it. So they're kind of all staggered, and this whole time Matt doesn't have Ford's perspective, so we don't know at all what's going on. No one does. And then when we do finally switch to Ford's perspective, he is in yet another chamber in this bizarre, magically connected mansion of sorts that they're in. And inside this chamber is a young dragon. The dragon starts basically saying, "I'm going to eat you," fills Ford in on a little bit of the information. So apparently Halas is the master of this dragon in some way and has contracted it to protect his stuff and his house of over 100 chambers, the dragon tells us, that they're in currently. In exchange, he sends food his way, and the dragon is basically like, when I get older, I'm going to kill Halas, and then all of this will be mine. Is the general gist of the conversation that Ford has. Ford is trying to delay and also maybe trying to figure out a way out, and asks, like, hey, is there a way out? Can I just leave now? I'm sorry, basically, because he is there alone facing down a dragon. Eventually, the dragon is like, yeah, no, we're definitely going to fight. And then at that moment, Bo and Jester both port in, and the fight begins immediately, originally with just the three of them. Over the course of the fight, the rest of them filter in twos and threes because of the timing of how long they sat around inside the other room, inside the study, before pressing the button on the stained glass frame that they found. The fight is really hairy. There are a lot of close calls. However, no one does ever actually go down, but Knot ends the fight on 1 HP, and Jester ends it on single digits as well, both of them coming very close to going down. They do, during this fight, Jester casts a spell, and for some reason the spell magic gets sucked away into an orb that seems to charge a sphere nearby. Ford casts his Arm of Agathis in order to charge that sphere as well, and then they have this orb that's now fully charged in the center of the room. Bo goes over and touches it, and she gets teleported instantly, and then the rest of the fight is basically them trying to disengage with the dragon safely and get everyone over to the orb without leaving anyone behind, which they do finally manage to do. However, after everyone else has left, Twiggy is the last one there, and she manages to get off a critical sneak attack that actually finishes the dragon off and kills it. So they successfully kill the dragon, and they have figured out that this is some sort of wizard's lair with over 100 different rooms. They have no idea if Halas, the owner of this, is still alive or not, but they now have access to go back there. They know how to go back there, and it's a little bit safer because the dragon that was protecting it is dead. So the possibilities there are a lot of, as far as like what they might gain from going in there and checking out all the stuff, what items they might acquire. However, when they do arrive back on the ship, they find that they have already made it to the port that they were headed to, and the crew tells them that they've been gone for an entire week, for 7 days. So it seems that time works differently inside that dungeon, inside that mansion. And that's basically where the episode ended, where they pay for the repairs that are already complete thanks to the 7 days that they spent inside the cube in an hour, or the sphere. And they now have some sort of magical sphere, as well as some money and gems and stuff that they got out of it, and some books, and who knows what else they might find in there. But yeah, that was pretty much it. So Twiggy went on her way saying, I just got out of being kept in a box for years on end, so I just want to go explore. And it was basically just RP reasoning for why the guest wasn't going to be there again. But yeah, her character was a lot of fun, and it was a really fun and interesting episode. That's about it. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.